But this allegation, and particularly its political inconvenience, did not go away. It did not go away, and in fact, it remained for the PMO a liability. And Senator Duffy was told by the PMO that despite the truth of the matter, for political reasons, namely because the Tory base, the voting base, would not like this, meaning the optics of the state of Senate rules governing principal residence designation, he had to repay all 4 years of the living allowance claims that they'd already told him were perfectly valid. He had made openly and in good faith reliance on all that he was told, and that the Senate Finance had approved in each and every case. I told you, and you know, that Senator Duffy is not a wealthy man. Not only for that reason, he strongly objected to this, saying, my living allowance claims are and always have been valid. His objection was greeted with pressure and threats by the Prime Minister's office. There is a clear and long and substantial evidentiary chain. The email that I just read you from Nigel Wright is but the tip of a big evidentiary iceberg. I have those emails. The RCMP have most of those emails. It is a clear evidentiary chain that Mike Duffy was resisting. He has been painted in the media as desperate to repay what is now being portrayed as inappropriate living allowance claims, and ones that he knew were inappropriate. They weren't inappropriate when he made them, and they aren't now. Deloitte and all the other sources indicate that. The payment of $90,000 was not the doing of Senator Duffy. It was on him by the Prime Minister's office. He was not trying to buy his way out of trouble. The emails show that, and I will give you but one potent sample of this. From December, when the problem didn't go away, and particularly through January and then festering into February, the heat was ratcheted up by the PMO on Senator Duffy about the political problem here. Senator Duffy decided to get a lawyer, not me, a lawyer. And similarly, the PMO had a lawyer, legal advice, working out a scenario for Senator Duffy. Not one he dreamed up or wanted any part of, and he objected to, but one that he was forced to. And listen to the terms. February 20, 2013, Senator Duffy to his then lawyer, describing his conversation that day or the night before. This is, by the way, in the hands of the RCMP because Chris Woodcock was sent this document, he's in the PMO, by Senator Duffy. So this is why it is so important to let due process carry on here. Let the RCMP finish their investigation. They have this material. Quote, then Nigel called tonight. He was expansive, saying we, the PMO, have been working on lines and a scenario for you that would cover all of your concerns, including cash for repayment. We're working out this whole scenario for you, Senator Duffy, and the lines you're going to say publicly, and we're even going to pay it. This didn't happen overnight. This has been going on and on and on. Somewhere in the midst of this, he said that the steering committee of the internal economy was preparing to issue their own report on the issue of residency, i.e., and this is part of the threat, they would trump Deloitte. That despite the independent auditor's findings, they would trump Deloitte by saying that their analysis of my file, Senator Tkachuk, the same fellow who has said they're absolutely proper living allowance claims, is going to say that I was in violation, Duffy was in violation of the rules and wasn't eligible to sit as a senator from PEI. Of course he's constitutionally entitled. But the threat is, if you don't go along with this, we'll boot you out of the Senate. I asked, where does this committee get the power to pronounce on these things? Sounds to me like they are way out of their depth. No one gave them authority to make these findings on their own. He said David Tkachuk and Carolyn Stewart Olson were the majority on the steering committee, and they wanted to do this. So that's the hammer. The threat seems obvious. You take the dive, or this subcommittee will throw you out on the residency issue before you've had any kind of a hearing. Exactly what they're proposing to do now. No justification for it, contrary to everything they've said, contrary to the findings of the independent auditor, but as a political tactic.
That email was from Mike Duffy to Chris Woodcock?
That email was from Mike Duffy to his then lawyer, forwarded on to Chris Woodcock.
He's explaining a conversation he had with Nigel Wright.
On the Nigel called last night.